I usually do the talking. Laurie's the quiet one, and we always tell a student to listen to me and watch Laurie. We've been together for a long time, and we met at this place, and we married at this place, Strathcona Lodge. We were old friends of the family and old friends of the lodge, and we've been working part-time off and on here for short periods of time with the COLT group, particularly for 35 years now.
35.
I'd done an outward bound course, and one of the instructors, Ray Priest, who came up to work here, one of the buildings is named after Ray. He was one of the outward bound instructors, and he took a group of ex-outward bounders on a sailing trip up towards Waddington Island, and he pointed off to the Strathcona Mountains and said, you know, I'm going to be getting a job over there at an outdoor center. And he ended up getting myself and another woman a job here at the lodge. So that's how I came here. And then I met Rob, and he came up to visit me and fell in love with the place too, and Jim Bolton and the Jim's philosophy of the lodge. And meanwhile, Rob had also bought some land on an island off of Waddington Island, Maurelle Island.
Close by here.
And so we would go between Maurelle and here for the first little while we were together till we got a place established on Maurelle.
The combination of the ocean and the mountains. In the Rockies you've got the mountains, and where you don't have the ocean. And first thing I did when I got to the coast is I bought myself a little sailboat so that I could get to these remote mountains. There's obviously mountains all over the place on the coast, but how the hell do you get to them? And I figured out that if you had a small sailboat, we could sail into inlets, and it's specifically to climb Mount Waddington, which is like the crown jewel of the BC coast range, and actually probably from a mountaineer's point of view, by far away the most spectacular mountain in Canada, and it's hidden deep in the coast range. And we boated into it and discovered the way in to get into it from the coast, and we also discovered this area as a place to live in the process, and discovered the lodge as a sort of spin-off from looking for Mount Waddington.
But actually, like,
we're taking the point where Doug and Rob went up. The previous day, a couple of guys had fixed a rope, you know, just by the start of the climb, and then came down, and then the weather was bad, had got bad that night, and then we figured we'd all have to go down, but the next morning, and Rob and Doug were going to go retrieve the rope, and meanwhile everyone else had headed down to our base camp, and I stayed with the idea of just going down with Rob and Doug. Meanwhile, they went up to retrieve the rope and decided to carry on. And as they were going up, the weather changed and they decided to carry on, and they asked if I wanted to come, and I said sure. So I went in, put my crampons on. When I came out, they had pulled the rope up, and the reason being is that Doug was jumaring up the rope and slipped because it was iced up, and it sort of scared him, and then they realized that it was probably going to be too hard for 3 people to climb to get up to the summit and back, you know, before dark. So they just continued up.
I decided I wanted a Capitan because they're fast and seaworthy, and you can get into shallow bays with them. And I was looking around for the possibility of building a homemade Capitan cheaply, and somebody told me of a guy that was selling 2 hulls off a cross 38 trimaran. He built the 2 outriggers, never got around to building the central part of the trimaran, and got these 2 hulls stored in a shed in Camber River, and they'd probably sell them cheap. So I checked it out and actually paid $1,000 for them, and wrote to Norman Cross, the designer, and asked him what it'd be like if I put them together and made a simple Capitan. He said, yeah, it's a good idea. He did a set of drawings for $400, and so I paid my $400 to Norman Cross, and he designed me this modified cross-design Capitan. Well, again, it comes back to my love affair with Bute Inlet, which is right in our backyard. Turns out the biggest and best of the BC inlets, and taking us direct into Mount Waddington and the heart of the Coast Range. So I wanted a boat that was seaworthy enough to actually take people on coast mountain expeditions. And so I built a boat that was designed and built for that purpose, and it actually served us very well for 25 years. And just recently, a couple of years ago, I succeeded in accidentally setting fire to it. So we lost the whole boat went up in smoke, unfortunately. Well, Jim, from pretty much the time that we were here, he'd already established what he called the apprenticeship program.
Yeah.
And nobody knew exactly what the apprenticeship in what, except the apprenticeship in being with Jim, you know. And we never knew whether it was paddling or climbing or fixing a water line or baking bread in the kitchen. Didn't seem to make any, it wasn't categorized in those days. It was just you apprentice at this place. Yeah. And somebody once asked Jim, apprenticeship in what? And he came out with his classic statement, which is an apprenticeship in happy warriorship. Because his another famous statement Jim had made was there's 2 types of outdoorsmen, there's whiners and bitches, and there's happy warriors. And so we all considered ourselves to be learning how to be happy warriors. Yeah. And still are, actually. It's not called that anymore, and doesn't have those sort of pretentious, poetic innuendo that Jim always had, but it's more down to it, a little bit more down to earth these days, and not quite so glamorous, but it's basically the same thing. And we call it the COLT program, but the program itself is the same. Right. What we teach, particularly on the COLT program, Jamie and Tina have invited us back year after year after year to make this contribution, because they know that we knew Jim really well, and we were able to give the modern day students a little taste of Jim, even though he's been dead for 25 years now. Yeah. So that's what we do. Well, I'll tell you the story of the first time I ever met Jim, or the first time I ever saw Jim actually out in the bush with a bunch of people. There was a bunch of phys ed students from Simon Fraser University, and they were doing survival or bushcraft or something. I can't remember what the title of the course they're supposed to be doing. But we were out in the woods, and they were straight off the bus, and straight out of the city. And bright, intelligent young people, career-oriented. And Jim always used to delight in sort of bending people's mind a little bit, and sort of shake them out of their conventional way of seeing things. And he's a very big man, and he had a big hat. And plus he was a hunter, and he was really into nature. And it's almost like a shaman, and he's more like a First Nations shaman than any white man ever, Right. And he's out there in the pouring rain in the forest, And they said the first thing is you've got to learn to think like an animal. And with that, he squatted down behind a big stump and started scrabbling away at the dirt. And these students looked at each other and looked at me, and their eyes just about popping out of their head. They just could not believe that this guy that just suddenly became a bear right in front of them. And then they all looked at each other and suddenly cracked up laughing. Everybody cracked up laughing, but there was quite a long period there of absolute astonishment. Just completely mind blown. They had never seen anything like that, and Jim just stood up and smiled. I can't think that they have. It's changed from the apprenticeship program. It's become more, the COLT programs, since Jim died, for various reasons, has become more professional and more aligned with the profession, with the outdoor education certification and training that's standard with other places and comparable with other places. So there's a lot more professional, let's say, in that regard.
There's a lot of competition, with other centres that you have to keep up with those.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I relate everything personally to the need for society to learn how to be more in tune with nature, which is what Jim was out to teach. I had it before I met Jim, but Jim just reinforced it, and I'm still more than ever convinced in Jim's message, which is that society needs to be more in tune with nature, because otherwise we don't have a very rosy looking future. But I'm fairly optimistic that things can be turned around, and it's just a matter of spreading consciousness of the importance of nature and what a wonderful, thrilling experience it is to engage yourself and be in tune with the natural environment. A lot of people wonder how, they're aware of the fact that they might be aware of the fact that they need to be more in tune with nature. They may be aware of the fact that they need to consume less energy, but they don't know how to do it and how they would get their enjoyment and meaning in life if they didn't have all of their modern day conveniences. And our message, our mission is to show them that quite simply, without spending a lot of money, you can learn to engage yourself with nature, spend more time with nature, one another, whether it be gardening or growing your own food or climbing mountains or teaching little kids to do the same thing. It's just spreading the consciousness of how much satisfaction a person can get from having that strong presence in their life.